economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has addressed a message on the occasion of the 63rd anniversary of independence, in which he paid tribute to the brave martyrs who sacrificed their lives for the recovery of Algeria's sovereignty and dignity. The Algerian people will celebrate tomorrow, Saturday, the 63rd anniversary of independence and the recovery of national sovereignty, a memorable occasion when successive generations recall the principles of the glorious war of liberation based on the values of justice and equality. And the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Occupied Palestinian Territories, Francisca Albanese, has called on the International Criminal Court ICC and the International Court of Justice ICJ to investigate the killings of Palestinians waiting for aid. Those were the headlines and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. Good afternoon. First, in our news, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has addressed a message on the occasion of the 63rd anniversary of Independence Day, in which he paid tribute to the brave martyrs who sacrificed their lives for the recovery of Algeria's sovereignty and dignity. In his message, the head of state highlighted that Algeria today faces the different challenges with a renewed spirit and aspires to overcome them with full confidence in its national capacities and potentialities. President Tebboune also stressed that the memory of independence and recovery of national sovereignty drives us to reflect deeply on the changes that the current world is experiencing and how cohesion, solidarity, and national consciousness constitute in the best way to prevent the nations from suffering the ravages of turmoil and conflicts. In this sense, the Algerian people have always worried about maintaining their unity and strengthening their ranks, and throughout history they have been an example for peoples in terms of loyalty to the country, the President wrote in his message. To conclude, the President of the Republic urged Algerians to be aware of the challenges following the great principles that guided our brave and eternal martyrs. And the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has awarded at the People's Palace in Algiers the Order of National Merit Medal, rank Ashir, to the Director General of the National Security Services, DGSN, Ali Badawi, and the CEO of the National Electricity and Gas Company, Sonelgaz, Mourad Ajal, on the sidelines of the annual ceremony for the awarding of ranks and medals. The President of the Republic awarded the National Order of Merit Medal, rank Ashir, to Ali Badawi in recognition of his commendable efforts over decades in the service of a sensitive sector considered one of the fundamental pillars of constitutional institutions for the preservation of the safety and security of citizens, and to Mourad Ajal for his colossal and recognized services to this vital sector, as well as to his major contribution to the promotion of national economy and for his efforts at the head of the company in serving citizens throughout the national territory. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has presided over a ceremony to award ranks and medals to a number of general and senior officers and civilian personnel as part of the celebrations commemorating the 63rd anniversary of independence and the restoration of national sovereignty, according to a statement from the Ministry of National Defense. Saïd Bouazi has more details.
On this occasion, the Deputy Minister to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army (ANP), Army General Saïd Shengriha, gave a speech in which he first expressed his sincere thanks to the President of the Republic for agreeing to preside over the ceremony to award ranks and medals to the officers of the ANP.
On this happy occasion, I am honored to express to you, Mr. President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, on my own behalf and on behalf of all members of the National People's Army, my deep thanks and gratitude for supervising the ceremony of awarding ranks and medals to a number of executives of the National People's Army. This honor, which has become a good and deeply rooted tradition, truly bears witness to the extent of the care you give to the executives and employees of our great army, and will undoubtedly motivate them to more serious work, perseverance, and contribution to the construction of our armed forces on a solid foundation.
The Army General underlined that the coincidence of the organization of this ceremony with the commemoration of Independence Day and the restoration of national sovereignty reflects the gratitude of the brave children of Algeria towards the heroic deeds of the martyrs who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country.
Organizing this joyful celebration amidst the celebrations marking the 63rd anniversary of Independence Day and the recovery of national sovereignty instills in our souls the deepest feelings of pride and honor in the glories and achievements of our blessed ancestors, and revives in our hearts the highest meanings of victory, freedom, and absolute loyalty to sovereign Algeria.
The Army General congratulated the officers promoted to higher ranks and those who received medals, urging them to be leaders capable of leading their men to victory, the statement added.
And as I said before, tomorrow, Saturday, the Algerian people will celebrate the 63rd anniversary of independence and the restoration of national sovereignty, a memorable occasion when successive generations recall the principles of the glorious war of liberation based on the values of justice and equality as the new victorious Algeria continues its development process, reaffirming its firm commitment to preserving the social character of the state. To find out more, follow a special program on Independence Day right after the end of this news bulletin. Shifting now to the Middle East, where the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, has issued a new appeal to the International Criminal Court, ICC, and the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to investigate the deaths of Palestinians under Zionist bombardments while awaiting humanitarian aid in Gaza. Speaking at a press conference in Geneva on Thursday, Albanese stressed that accountability is necessary once again. There is no doubt about it, in response to a question about the deadly violence that occurred near aid distribution areas and centers managed by the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, supported by the Zionist entity. Let's listen to her.
The situation in the occupied Palestinian territory is apocalyptic. In Gaza, people continue to endure suffering beyond imagination. Israel is responsible for one of the cruelest genocides in modern history. Official figures count over 200,000 killed or injured. Leading health experts estimate that true toll is far higher. As the cost to the Palestinian people grows, Israel has dismantled the last function of the UN in Gaza, humanitarian aid. Its so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is nothing else than a death trap, engineered to kill or force the flight of a starved, bombarded, emaciated population marked for elimination.
So the conference followed the presentation of Albanese's latest report, which focused on what she described as economic genocide in the Palestinian territories, accusing the Zionist entity and other parties of making profit out of the genocide in Gaza.
If the genocide has not stopped, it's not just because there has always been an economy of the occupation. It's because the economy of the occupation has turned into an economy of genocide. And so there have been people and organizations that have profited from the violence, the killing, the maiming, the destruction in Gaza and in other parts of the occupied Palestinian territory, because it's not that the Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem are having the happiest time of their life as we speak.
That was the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese. Still, in the Middle East, UN humanitarian agencies warn that people continue to faint in the streets of Gaza due to hunger as the dire humanitarian situation in the Palestinian enclave, subject to a brutal Zionist aggression, continues to worsen. According to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, there is not enough water to drink and the entire population is starving before the eyes of the whole world, denouncing the use of hunger as a weapon machine. The details with our colleague Saad Bouazi.
To remedy this tragic situation, UNRWA reiterates its call for the lifting of the siege of Gaza and the urgent delivery of aid in complete safety under the auspices of the United Nations, including UNRWA. As part of this international mobilization to send food to Gaza, the UN agency points out that there were previously 408 distribution points. These sites were coordinated by UN agencies and other humanitarian organizations. UNRWA insisted that aid must be distributed as close as possible to the most vulnerable communities, women, children, the wounded and the disabled, noting that the siege must be lifted and the UN allowed to do its work. The UN and humanitarian NGOs have severely criticized the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and refused to work with it due to concerns about its procedures and neutrality. According to the Gaza Ministry of Health, nearly 550 people have been killed in 5 weeks near distribution sites while seeking food. UNRWA's communications director Juliette Thomas said on social media that the current system of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is degrading. Hungry people have to travel many kilometers to get very little food, and on top of that, they are short-staffed. It is in this context that the Swiss Federal Supervisory Authority for Foundations has just ordered the formal dissolution of the Geneva-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Amid the chaos surrounding the distribution of aid by this foundation, the World Food Programme has warned that the window of opportunity to prevent famine in Gaza is rapidly closing. The agency added that its teams are adapting in real time, setting up new distribution points, navigating extreme constraints, and using all safe routes to reach people where they are located.
And the proceedings of the 32nd annual session of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, have wound up in Portugal, with the participation of a delegation from the Algerian Parliament with its 2 chambers, according to a statement from the National People's Assembly. And to the Western Sahara file now, the Western Sahara Analysis Center, CASO, has emphasized in a social media post that Western Sahara is not a tourist destination like any other, and any economic activity in this territory should be subject to compliance with international law and the consent of the Sahrawi people. Iran has announced the reopening of its airspace, including over Tehran, which was closed on June 13, the first day of the Zionist aggression. The international airports of Meshrabad and Imam Khomeini in Tehran, as well as those in the north, east, west and south of the country, have been reopened and are ready to operate flights, announced the official IRNA news agency. Iranian airspace was completely closed on June 13 after the start of the attack launched by the Zionist forces against Iran. And Iran has affirmed its commitment to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty despite its decision to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA. Iran remains committed to the NPT, or to the treaty, and its safeguards agreement, said Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in a message posted on social media. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Wednesday promulgated the law on suspending cooperation with the IAEA, which was approved last week by Parliament. And with this last piece of news, we come to the end of this news bulletin for today. Time now for a weekly program, special program devoted to the Independence Day, which coincides with tomorrow, Saturday, the 5th of July. This program has been compiled and presented by my colleague Mohammed Brazwan. As for me, I'll meet you again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye for now.